You've counted every calorie, tried every diet, spent hours in the gym, and still something's missing. You want more than just weight loss. You want your energy back. You want your confidence restored. You want a way of living that doesn't feel like punishment. Welcome to Master Your Metabolism, where we cut through the noise, ditch the fads, and give you a real plan to become the healthiest, strongest version of you. Hosted by our team of expert coaches with proven strategies, science-based tips, and real-life encouragement, not just to help you lose fat, but actually create that lifestyle that you love. You've tried everything. Now, let's try what actually works. This is your turning point. Let's go. Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Master Your Metabolism. And I'm here not only today with Calvin, but also a very close friend, Corene Phelps, who I am so excited to have here today. So those of you that have never experienced breathwork, this is Corene Phelps, who is a high performance growth advisor and consultant. And she supports leaders and entrepreneurs in order to reach their potential through different modalities and methodologies like hypnotherapy, breath work, sound healing, nervous system centric coaching. And this experience she shares through healthcare, wellness, real estate, mobile, direct to consumer technology industries, finance, CPG. She is just an amazing human. And I actually met her and experienced the breath work and other modalities that she performs. And I can honestly say from experience, it was literally life changing. She allowed us to be able to create what we have here today and also helped Calvin. And he is now pro. And
She
it
did.
all centered around Corey and how she was able to kind of guide us and teach us and show us things that we never realized that was possible. And I wanted to have her on here today to share a little bit about these modalities and how they can be incorporated, not just again with people's businesses, but also just as being able to improve yourself and being able to move into areas you never thought possible. So thank you, Corey, for joining us. I'm so excited.
I am so delighted to be here.
So I wanted to start off, I guess, by you telling the story of how you kind of found your way into this area because it is a very unique area. So just to kind of give everybody a little bit of background.
Yeah, well, I spent my early 20s selling real estate and on the side teaching Pilates and yoga. And I one day, basically through like juggling lots of balls, being a single mom, juggling two businesses, I ended up in the hospital thinking I was having a heart attack. And the doctor came in and said, "You're not having a heart attack. You just are having a panic attack or an anxiety attack. And I'm gonna guess it's because you're really burnt out." And that sort of started the journey of trying to figure out how to repattern my tendency to overwork, which led me to a multitude of different modalities, hypnobreathwork or hypnotherapy and breathwork being like the two that were like the biggest catalysts in helping uncover those patterns. And then as I kind of continued to evolve, I started to realize that not only could it help uncover our internal patterns and subconscious patterns, but you can start to use other more performance based patterns of breath to instantly shift our performance in the moment. And all of that sort of ended up where I am today, which is helping high performers, high achievers really tap into that next level of potential.
We started with that also with the HRV.
Well, I think
Yeah.
kind of what you said about how you got into it, going through the panic attack, is that something I think a lot of people can relate to because I can tell you just with us and our clients, it's probably 80% of our clients are just stress balls, and are going through the same thing, maybe not to that point, but maybe right at the edge of it. And I think that aside from the things that you mentioned, because lowering stress for a lot of people is very difficult. Just doing the things causes stress, sometimes. And the breath work can be pivotal for that, alone. That's a place that they can go to actually work on this skill and start to regulate their central nervous system, in a way that they aren't going to get that somewhere else. It's almost like a fast pace or a fast track to do that. So it's pretty big,
It is, yeah. I mean, it basically enables us to metabolize stress. So it's not, I mean, it's really hard to remove stress and we don't really want to remove it. That stress is what expands us. And that's why we go to the gym. We put our bodies under stress on purpose to grow our muscles, build our capacity. And it's the same thing with everyday life. We can't remove it. We just need to learn how to metabolize it better.
Yes, yes. And I certainly see this, like Calvin was saying, there's so many of our clients. I know women going through perimenopause, menopause, myself, what the decline in these hormones, what the impact is on the body, and your ability to have that same resilience for stress is limited. So having something that we could show people and that they can experience in order to allow them to learn again how to move through these times, because there always will be stress, there always will be things, but the more tools that you have in your toolbox to be able to utilize during those times to keep you healthy, to keep you grounded, because eventually stress does get to a point that it does cause chronic illness and long term issues. So, I'm love that we can do this. And at the end of the call, at the end of the episode, I'd love to be able to kind of share a little bit that we can give people a little bit of a taste of what that looks like, at least one of the modalities, so they can maybe take something away and utilize that. So that would be awesome.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned, oh, sorry, Calvin, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say my experience wasn't with the breath work wasn't for stress, but it was to kind of visualize what needed to be done to be able to reach pro level with what I do. Before I did it, it wasn't that I was skeptical, it's just I didn't understand and really understand how that was gonna help me do that. And then she put me down and had me go through this, and it's very eye-opening. It almost transcends you to a different place and makes you see things from almost like an outsider looking in, seeing it kinda happen. That was pivotal for me, that really sank in. So the skills that I learned from that, I've been able to use over and over again on my own, even without Corey's voice guiding it, which helps a lot to have Corey guide you in this because that
Right.
will drop cortisol by itself. But to have that skill to know that and how useful that actually is, I don't know that I can say that it would have happened without it. And as weird as that sounds, I think that had a big role in it and having that vision. But it's not, everybody says, well, you got to visualize it. You got to, but how many people know how to visualize it the right way? You have to feel it, and acknowledge it. And she taught me that, how to be present in that moment and be there, even though I'm not there physically, I'm there in spirit, but seeing it happen. And it's almost like when you come out of it, it's like you don't have a doubt. You kind of know it's going to happen. And that was the turning point, for me.
Gosh, I just got chills. I mean, that's the thing. Like when we can visualize something and we start to see the details and we can start to connect that feeling in our body. I mean, it kind of sounds like we're talking about manifestation, and I guess in a way we are, but it's rooted in science because you're creating these pathways in our brain and connecting the breath work to it accelerates it because we start to create that sense of safety because your body has to believe what you're telling it for it to be able to come true. We tend to cap ourselves at a certain level because that's the identity or the belief that we hold is that we're capable of this thing. And we are because that's what we believe. And the minute you can start to unlock that belief that you're you're there, you've done it, you can see it, you can touch it, you can taste it, it's like becomes inevitable.
Yep, yep. And if you could share a little bit more about that, the science behind it, because there are different types of breath work. And I remember being in it, and you would tell us the different states and when you would feel a certain way, different things that you can implement when you were at a low, different things that you can implement when you're getting too high and too heightened. So if you could share maybe a little bit about the different types of breath work and different states that people go into and how to be able to utilize the appropriate tool at the appropriate time.
Yeah. Breathwork is an umbrella term. There are a ton of different tools or types or I guess, patterns of breath that you can engage in. And they all sort of have a very specific use case scenario. When we were visualizing you on stage, winning and getting your card and becoming pro, what we were using was something called uh, conscious connected breathing. And sometimes that same breath pattern can be used in something called holotropic breath work, which are really long experiences that tend to be very cathartic. If you've happened to see any sort of things around on social media, you'll see people kind of like writhing around and having these like really crazy experiences. That's holotropic breath work. And the 3-part breath doesn't have to be used in that level of intensity. Like we used it in a much more gentle case scenario where it was shorter, maybe like 20 minutes, and infused in visualization with it. And that's like a really great place to visualize something that you want to do. You can also use that in a scenario of solving a really difficult problem, tapping into creativity. And what that really does in the end, the journey that we go through is we start to change the brainwave states and drop down and into a theta state. And when we're in a theta state, we tend to be really open. We're tapping into our intuition, which can sound like we're talking about spiritual, but we're also your intuition is essentially your subconscious mind. And when we start to open up that door, your subconscious mind moves exponentially faster than our conscious mind. So that's the use for an experience like that. But smaller practices, shorter practices that you can just kind of like put into your back pocket at any time and use them. When we're talking about stress, stress tends to mean that we are in a sympathetic state, a very activated state, not always a bad state to be in. When you're walking on stage to compete, you need to be in that state. You need to be in sympathetic because you need to bring the energy. The problem with sympathetic is that we tend to get stuck there. Most people are stuck with their foot on the gas and they're trying to slow down so that they put their foot on the brake. And that's really what ends up resulting in this case of burnout is this like go, go, go mode and no capacity to actually slow down. And if you can imagine a car having your foot on the gas and your foot on the brake, what sort of like craziness is happening to that car? It's like revving and it's not going anywhere. And what the energy that's like being just flooded out and not staying in, that's what being stuck in a sympathetic state looks like. It's like you're just always constantly burning through energy, running on an empty tank. So when we're in a state like that and we want to move out of it, we want to have a longer exhale. And this is when really great thing to use is coherence breathing, which we actually went through a really long process of trying to like learn and implement. There's certain programs for that where you practice it for longer forms, but this is something you can actually just do in like a 3-minute pattern. You draw your breath in through your nose for 4 and you exhale out for 6. So anytime you're wanting to get out of a sympathetic state, we want our exhale longer than our inhale. And in that same capacity, there's another pattern, which is in for 7 and out for 11. And that pattern specifically, it's in through the nose, out through the mouth, is really, really useful if you were maybe on the level of like 9-10 activation. Let's just say you're in like really severe pain, or let's just say you had a massive fight with your husband and you are like out of your mind and the emotions, like you cannot get a grip on your emotions. This is a perfect time to use that. So when we start to count, we tend to take over a portion of our brain where stress and anxiety are taking over. So if you do a cycle like that, in for 7, out for 11, do that for like 5 to 10 breaths. On the other side of that, you are going to feel like completely different than you did at the start of that. If you're in a lot of pain, it almost allows you to like leave your body and witness yourself so that that pain, like it's not that it goes away, but the severity of it will come down exponentially. The emotions will start to discharge because anytime we're experiencing a really intense emotion, fun fact, it only lasts 90 seconds. The reason an intense emotion lasts longer than that is because we are feeding it. So this breath pattern gives you an opportunity to discharge it and stop feeding that emotion. Now let's imagine. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that, this is something I remember you teaching us this, and I've used this quite a bit with the competitors before they go on stage, because especially the newer ones, they get that anxiety, and I see them shaking, and I need to calm them down, and so I have them do the breathing technique like you said. I actually have a picture that I posted. The photographer actually took a picture when I was doing this with one of my competitors. I actually have that. I have to send it to you.
Oh my
But
gosh, I love that.
it works like magic, and I was actually doing it wrong because I was having him do it 3 times,
I
and
mean,
so
3 times
it was
is
working.
enough.
It was working. You could see it in their face. They just calmed down. They weren't shaking,
Yeah.
and when I saw the shaking stop, I'm like, "Okay, they're good." I'm like, "You're ready." Now you go up and do it, and it's like magic. So I'm gonna bump it up to 5 times, because, hey,
What is it on?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's crazy what you can do in such a short amount of time with your breath. It's literally the keys to the kingdom for you learning how to drive your nervous system like a race car. You want to put your foot on the gas, lay it on the gas. You want to put your foot on the brakes. We just never really want them both feet on the pedals at the same time.
I know
But
the
you
light
have to
bulb's going off in a lot of people's heads right now thinking about
yeah.
that. They're like, "That is me."
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
so
And I think
common.
a lot of people do, they get stuck in that pattern, and I find that some women also, especially my women that are 40 plus that have been taking care of everything for so long, taking care of their family, taking care of their house, taking care of a job, taking care of everything. They don't even realize, like, I'm not stressed. This is just what I do. I just have to take care of this and this and this and this. And they don't even recognize the pattern that they're in and that go, 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 go until it's to a point that their body, they're like, but I can't lose weight and nothing is happening. And no matter what I do, I can't sleep. And I'm waking up in the morning and I'm exhausted, but I try to go to sleep and my mind is just racing. I'm like, but you're not stressed? No, this is just who I
No.
am.
Can you give a couple examples of, like, when somebody would use this technique, just
Yeah,
in life?
well, you could totally use it before a competition because I love using that 7-Eleven breath. I don't know how you guys feel about cold plunges, but I use that when I get into the plunge because it's we have to get through that first minute to be able to make
Oh,
it
yeah.
past that. And that's what I use to kind of just regulate myself, but also it literally if you try it, you'll notice you can like almost leave your body. And so I get in, I don't fuss around with like dipping in. I just I go in and then I just start that breath and allows you to relax your body because the thing about all of this is we tend to be fighting it with our body. We don't even realize that we're constricting and protecting ourselves. And the minute we start to relax our muscles, which the breath allows you to be able to get into a place of doing that and builds that sense of trust that like you can navigate, you can handle whatever is coming your way, which is why I really love combining it with cold plunging in the appropriate times in our cycles. But that I feel like what it does is it teaches your body it's like an actual physical experience of teaching your body that trust that we can do hard things, that we can handle it, that you have the capacity to move through it as long as you use your breath, as long as you can relax into the experience. It's a complete game changer. You
That
could
is.
also use that coherence breath pattern like right before you're going to speak or present or having a really difficult conversation, maybe with your partner or your kids or a boss. And it allows you to get into a place where you feel composed. It's not that you're like so relaxed that you're out of it. It just puts you in that place of like, okay, I got this.
It's almost like, ashwagandha, a little bit stronger, and it's
Yeah.
the cold plunge, we're fans of it. We have a cold plunge here, and I would tell you the first minute is just me trying to catch my breath. I'm chasing after it, and then I kinda fall into that zone a little bit, but I never thought about using that, so I'm actually gonna do it tomorrow. It's my off days. I plunge on the off days.
Yes.
So, I'll try it. I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah. I love that. I can't wait to hear. You're going to be like, wow, it really only took like 10 seconds. It didn't feel like I was fighting for a minute. It's like 10, 15 seconds. And you're like, wait.
Then I'll have to pull them out of there.
Mm. I don't know about that.
But what about the times on the opposite extreme that people are so overwhelmed that they go into that state that they just don't feel like doing anything and they are just like at a place that I'm exhausted, I'm so overwhelmed that I'm just in this low spot that I can't get the energy to do anything. I don't have the capacity to even get out of bed and do the thing.
Yeah. So then we're in that kind of freeze, stuck state, that dorsal state. And we have no motivation. So, what we're looking to do is activate, infuse energy to get moving. And you're basically going to do the exact opposite. You want your inhale to be longer and your exhale to be shorter, which is, they would call that a Timu breath, which is Wim Hof, or breath of fire. If you happen to be like somebody who's into yoga, breath of fire is an activator like that. It builds a lot of energy, a lot of heat. Basically, the breath is a really long inhale like that. And it's not necessarily on a count. You're just going to make it longer inhale, shorter exhale. And the exhales tend to be a little more forceful. And even just by doing that, even if you just like try it right now, you'll start to see like all of a sudden you start to feel more activated and energized. They will also obviously use that breath, that Wim Hof breath before a cold plunge also, because sometimes, I mean, that's how that breath basically, I mean, he's the Iceman, right? What it does is it starts to give you that sense and feeling of being invincible. I personally don't find that helpful going into the cold plunge, but I'm not like a professional cold plunger. So maybe I need to like give it some more chances in that I for more get into the cold plunge and I'm like, I just need to freak out. Like I need to stop myself from freaking out and getting out, and so that breath work pattern works much better for me than getting myself hyped up because I just tend to run in a more activated state anyways, even though I'm more like, I always call myself a duck. I'm like, you look at me like I'm going across the pond and on the top, I'm like, look like I'm super chill. But if you were to take a peek under the hood,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Your little feet.
So this technique is something you would use when you're about to do something that you really almost are afraid to do. And this kind of
that, or maybe even like, let's just say you're trying to PR on like a deadlift or like a snatch or something like
Yeah.
that. And you like really need to like,
Get pumped up.
channel that energy. You could do a couple rounds of that breath of fire or Timu breath and then go, because you really need to get in that invincible state when you're reaching for something that's hard and you need to be able to infuse that. You're like pulling the bar off the ground, then that's really going to be a helpful breath pattern. Or maybe you're getting ready to go run a marathon and you want to channel that breath. Maybe you're getting ready to go jump out of a plane, but I don't know, if I was jumping out of a plane, I probably still would use the other. I'd be too scared.
well, that's interesting because it almost feels like a natural response to do that because I've actually done something similar to that before going for a big heavy lift when I had to kind of do it just instinctively. So it's almost like a primal instinct in a way that so now that I know it actually is a thing, people are gonna be looking at me weird, but I'm gonna be using this.
I mean, so much of this really is intuitive. Like your body really knows. Funny story about that is I have a dear friend who, so there's a pattern when I do breath work, I also tend to have people hum in the very beginning of the session. And the reason I do that is humming is a natural soother for your nervous system. It tones your vagus nerve, which is basically the nerve that sends that message throughout your body that it's safe. So we hum. And I have a friend who, as a child, used to do that to basically soothe themselves when they were having an asthma.
You see
That's
a
really
lot of kids too, like when I used to work with little ones and they would just sit there and, to calm themselves, you would hear them just making the noises and to calm themselves down and just doing it with rocking and being just very rhythmical. So it is something that is very just, you think about it and they do it by nature. And
Yeah.
there was something else that you had told me a while ago that gave me almost like the perspective of you were talking about the amygdala and how this works. And because a lot of people think it's woo woo, a lot of people don't understand the connection and how there is actual science behind this. So maybe sharing a little bit about that and what that connection is in order to so your body understands what's going on.
Well, that center of our brain basically is like meaning making. It's very deeply connected to the like primal part of our, like they call it like the lizard brain, or sometimes you'll hear people referring to it as like the monkey mind. But when we start using visualization and breath work, we really start rewiring and repatterning the brain. And we start creating these new neural pathways. And the connection between all of that, when we start talking about visualization and breath work and what's happening in the body, is that when we experience stress, what the gut brain, like the vagus nerve, there's this gut brain axis. So when you feel stressed, we are actually changing our genetic expression. We're literally changing what's happening inside of our cells. So we're really actually changing our whole entire being. So, which is really wild to think about. If we're feeling stressed and we're actually starting to change that genetic expression in our body, how the magnitude and the impact of that. So being really cognizant of that. The other side of that is also, it works in the other way too. So if we're having feelings of peace and joy, it also starts to change our genetic expression, which actually kind of toggles off disease and all sorts of other things. We have this predisposition to all sorts of things, but our genetic code isn't necessarily our destiny. And breath work gets to be the thing that helps keep those things toggled off. And when we start to repattern and change the wiring in our brain, we actually start to change the frequency that we are emitting. So when we start to get into that coherent state through coherent breath work, the pattern that I mentioned, your brain waves and your heart and your gut, they all start to sync up. And we actually have an energetic signature that emits beyond our body, and it emits to, I think it's like a 5 foot radius all around us. And it is not something, I mean, in a way, I would love to, I mean, I think of it as spiritual because it's like mind blowing that this is true, but it's studied. This is like factual. It has been studied. It has been measured. So like if you've ever walked into a room and you're like, oh, it doesn't, like something feels off or something feels,
Yeah.
it is literally because that is happening. Like, so when you're around a lot of people, it really can be draining to our body. But now start to imagine if you're tapping into breath work and you're starting to create that coherence in your body and you're emitting the energy in a positive way, whether you're emitting gratitude, love, awe, whatever it happens to be, joy, you're impacting those around you, but you're also basically become like an antenna. We are like signal, we put out signals, but we also receive them and we be very magnetic for them. So when we're talking about creating things, you want to be putting the signals out of what it is that you desire. And that's where it starts to get into this idea of it being like manifestation or it being kind of woo. But we really are almost like our thoughts are, we're almost like 3D printers in a way. Like your thoughts really become things and there is an energetic frequency to them and you get to control it through things like breath work. And there's a whole little situation going on in our brain when we start to change the brain waves and we use breath work. We actually start having essentially like a cocktail party in our brain. We tend to reach for outside substances to have that same cocktail party, but you can achieve that sensation and that feeling with breath work. So we start to release the neurotransmitters that make us feel good.
Yeah, and it makes sense because you think about like when you're nervous and you're scared and you have that like feeling in your stomach and thinking about something that happened in the past. And when you think of someone that's gone through trauma or someone that has gone through things, every time they think about it, it's almost like they can feel as if they are still there. And being able to shift those thoughts and being able to have that control to use breath work in order to create a different type of reality. And you think of people who have gone through trauma and then they're stressed out and then they have kids and their kids feel their trauma. And you have all these studies that are, genetics and generational trauma because of what they've been through and year after year until somebody kind of makes the decision to say, okay, I'm going to have some control over this and I'm going to start using my thoughts to start moving the needle and doing the things that I want to start attracting into my life.
Yeah.
It is so cool.
Yeah, so that's what I'm hearing is that you can pretty much change the trajectory of your life and how it's laid out currently by actually understanding this and practicing it, that you can actually change the outcome and switch over
Absolutely.
just through the thoughts, but it's understanding how to actually control those thoughts and do it in a way that actually works. You sound a lot
Yeah.
smarter than I did when you were saying it.
No. Well, I mean, so it all what our breath allows us to do is so our thoughts are not where it doesn't start with our thought. It all starts with sensations in our body. Everything comes from a bottom up experience. We have been taught through conventional psychology that it starts at our mind and then it goes into our body, that we can control things through like they use cognitive behavioral therapy. And I'm not knocking conventional therapy, by the way. Let me just say that it has a time and a place. But when you try to use your mind, it's the same thing without getting a hold of the feeling first. It's the same thing as trying to muscle through a workout without having proper form. You're trying to use like the wrong muscles without like aligning your bones and using proper form or technique to be able to do something in a way that's like the most efficient and effective way. So when we want to change something, we have to start to understand the feeling in the body. Not only that, it's the feeling that makes the thought. So if we hold a belief or like that we can't lose weight, every time you have that thought, there is something, an experience, a feeling that happens in your body that triggers that thought, an emotion that happens in your body. So you see somebody walking down the street who has a rocking body, and all of a sudden you have an experience in your body from that visual cue. You feel something, and then you have the thought. So the piece of is really learning how to you catch the thought, and you start to get so good at catching the thought, you start to witness yourself. And in that witnessing of yourself, then all of a sudden you start to become aware of, like, before that thought, I had this like tightness in my chest. And oh, before I had that thought, I had this tightness in my chest. And I saw that girl walking down the street and she was wearing that outfit. And it really like was a trigger for me. It made me think of XYZ when I was a kid or like whatever. And that's when we start to understand, like, where the belief came from, and you can start to change where the belief came from.
That's
So,
wow.
meaning that the next time you would have to identify first the feeling that you're having in your body and
Yeah.
then make the connection there and say, wait a minute, the last time I had that feeling in my body, let me look around and realize what happens. And then you even catch it beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, and it happens in such an instant. Like I just described it, it took me a long time to describe that to you, but like that happens in an instant. And so what I'm talking about, the feeling in your body is called interoception, which is a key piece of learning how to drive your nervous system. And our nervous system really is just the bridge to the outside world and to our internal world, as well as a control mechanism to a lot of things in our body. But in terms of that connection to learning how to regulate the stress in our body or to regulate our emotions or to change the narrative, the storytelling that happens. It's through that method.
And so with this, it's gonna bring more confidence with people and have them go for things they wouldn't normally do, and which will start to stack up and stack up. Then they're gonna have eventually the things that they wanna have because they were doing the things they didn't wanna do before because they were afraid.
That, absolutely that. And here's the crazy thing, when we hold a belief, it is like when we put into a computer like a directive or an input that then the computer just goes and does it. When we hold a belief, it's the same thing. Your body and brain just goes after proving it to be true. So if you decide that you're the kind of person that can't lose weight, that can't get the job, that can't get the partner, it's because why me?
Yeah.
This always happens to me. This is like I'm not the kind of person, or like you were just mentioning, you're the women that are in paramedic. I'm just like this. This is just how it is.
Is
I'm not.
how.
I'm not stressed. So I hold a belief that this is my baseline. And so I'm going to, when I hold that belief, every action I take, everything that I do, every thought that I have is going to be a vote for that belief, no matter what.
Until you start making a shift.
Yeah, and
And
I think a lot of people know have seen this themselves and didn't realize it. They all know people that have that kind of attitude where they're constantly saying, "Well, this isn't gonna work. This isn't gonna work. Not for me. I can't do this. I'm not that person." And they're right. Bad things keep happening. Bad things keep happening. Where you see another person that has the switch is flipped and they just have that attitude like it's gonna happen no matter what. And they just make things happen and good things always land in their lap. And they're looked at like, well, they're just lucky or this or that. But I think it's like you're saying, it's just a mental shift in what you believe is gonna happen. I see it all the time. And it's true when they constantly say this isn't gonna work. It never does. It never works. So something like this would be extremely useful to kind of flip that switch for them and that
absolutely.
mindset of going into it, but it would take practice. It would take, I'm sure, several sessions to get to that point. But that value in that is in itself is life
Life
changing.
changing. Yeah.
It's changing, it's upgrading your life basically.
Massive upgrade. Yeah, our subconscious, our nervous system likes reps. That's just takes reps, lots of reps, just like getting in the gym, just like anything. It's practice, practice, practice.
And I know in the beginning, it's like it is your mind is going to tend to go towards what you have been doing and having to make that conscious effort to start feeding your mind those different ideas and again feeling it in your body and being able to do the things it does take practice. So in your experience, how is there a time frame or something that somebody can expect to start seeing shifts or how long they have to go through these practices, or is it really just individual specific as to how open they are to be able to do something?
I would say the latter. I mean, a breathwork experience, you can start to feel an immediate shift, which is sometimes just in your body, just in how we're feeling, which is just enough to get like 1% of evidence that it's working, just the sensation in your body. And sometimes that's all it takes is just that physical sensation in your body. And that can start to shift a belief that something is possible, that something different is possible.
I would think this would take dedication and intention because I know like my first experience with it was I'm a typical guy, right? So doing this and laying down and closing my eyes and all that puts me in an uncomfortable state. Can't say why. It just was. It was just not the norm for me. So it took me a minute to kind of chill out and
Because
get
you're
into
not the
that
kind of guy
space.
that likes to chill out.
Well, yeah, it will work like that if she could. Yeah. So, but I remember kind of fading into it, and I'm like, okay, so I'm doing it. And then when I was finally kind of able to get in that zone, it didn't take very long for me to kind of click over and start to kind of feel the effects of it to a certain degree. It was my first time, so I'm sure it wasn't at the same rate as other people. But I think that's the thing is they have to be willing to put down their guard and go into it with intention to fix themselves and fully believe. Otherwise, I think it would take longer because you were asking the timeline, Brooke. And I would imagine in this case, it would take longer the more you kind of, have your guard up. You just got to let go and just do it, and I
It's
highly
just like
recommend it.
anything.
Yeah. And before we get into the demonstration, and just to give people a little bit of a taste of what that looks like, just some like warnings of if there are certain practices that people would need to really be careful with if they have any types of conditions. Is there something that would be a limitation or something that you wouldn't recommend for certain people?
Yeah. So we are going to do a coherence pattern, which anybody can do. There's no contraindications to that. But other forms of breath work, anything with breath holds is really something that someone with a heart condition, a known heart condition, should not be participating in. And if you're pregnant, you really don't want to be doing breath holds. You can do breath work if you are pregnant, but you want it to be much more gentle. Coherence breath is really, I would say, the safest, best way to go. Anything activating is really not going to be such a great thing for actually that breath of fire is contraindicated for women when they are on their cycle. There is a theory and thought that it actually, because it's so activating, it can make you lose more blood during that time. So that's really also not something that you want to do breath of fire if you are like on your cycle. And that's primarily it. I would also say like if you are in an extraordinarily activated state, just knowing you really don't want to do something that's going to activate you more.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay.
And let's get started and kind of go through what it would look like, the coherent breath, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So we're just going to do like a quick 3-minute breath cycle of coherent breathing. So you're going to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. You're going to breathe in for 4 and out for 6. I would recommend if you are somewhere you feel safe to close your eyes to do that. You definitely, if you're listening and you're driving, don't do it. Pause this, flag it, come back to it later. But I have to say this because I know I listen to podcasts a lot of times while I'm driving. So don't try to toe dip right now. Just wait till you're in a safe space so that you can really experience it to the full magnitude. So I'm going to be counting you through the breath to begin with, and then I'm actually going to start to use a little bit of a visualization technique. And what I want you to do before we start is to think of a state of being or an emotion that you can really tap into. And I say this because for me, a lot of times, I mean, we like to try to generate that state of gratitude. And that's a really, really great one. So sometimes it's really helpful to think of something or someone that you're really grateful for. But what's been really resonating for me recently in this coherence practice, because most of the time I'm trying to drop into a state that's like peaceful and calm, I literally just start like peace. I just start to think about peace and like, how can I start to feel that in my body and in my muscles? So I'm going to walk you through that process. I'm going to use peace, but if there is another word or another experience or another emotion that resonates more for you, just tap into that. Like try to tune my voice out for a couple of minutes there, because language and our own association to these experiences is so important. Peace might not resonate for you. It might be calm that resonates for you. So use that to start to generate the feeling in your body. Sound good?
Sounds good.
So because I like data, I'm like kind of a, I'm like a spiritual, but I'm kind of a science nerd too. I want you to take a minute to really just pay attention to how you're feeling right now. Like if you could put a word to how you're feeling right now, what would it be? And just kind of put a pin in that and remember, like you're feeling a little tight in your back. So you're feeling a little activated, a little worn out, a little exhausted, whatever it happens to be. I want you just to take note of that. Okay. And now, wherever you happen to be, as long as you're in a safe space, maybe like you're sitting, if you want to lay down, you can lay down as well. But I feel like this one's a pretty great one to do sitting. So I just want you to kind of find that equal balance on your sits bones. Both feet are placed on the floor equally, sitting up nice and tall. So your shoulders are stacked over top of your hips. And then go ahead, make sure your head is stacked over your spine. I know we tend to be looking at phones and technology all the time. So I find myself doing this thing, like jutting forward all the time now. So just make sure that your heavy head is stacked right on top of your shoulders. And then go ahead and blink your eyes closed. And you're just going to start by drawing a breath in through your nose. We're not even counting yet, just a nice, big, deep, cleansing breath in. Open mouth exhale. Let it go. Let it be noisy. Draw it in. Big exhale. Sigh it out. One more time. Draw the breath in. Big sigh out. Good. And now we're just going to begin here, drawing your breath in for 4, 3, 2, 1. Out through the mouth for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In for 4, 3, 2, 1. Out for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In 4, 3, 2, 1. Out 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're going to keep on that pace and that cadence. In for 4 and out for 6. And I want you now to start to tap into that feeling of peace, that feeling of calm in your body. Start to draw it in through your nose and allow it to wash over your entire body. That softness, that warmth in your muscles. Notice if there's a color that starts to come into your vision as you start to allow that sense of peace to enter every cell of your being, using your imagination to visualize it, to feel it. Maybe there's a sound you associate to that sense of peace. Maybe it's the ocean, or being in the forest with the birds chirping. It's the sound of a peaceful, quiet room. You'll keep breathing in for 4, 3, 2, 1. Out 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In 4, 3, 2, 1. Out 6, 5, 4, 3, 1. In 4, 3, 2, 1. Out for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you can just start to let your breath return to its natural cadence. And as you do, just taking a moment to check in. I mean, noticing the difference of how you felt just 3 short minutes ago to now. And if you could start to
Right.
connect a word to how you're feeling, start to summons that forward here. And then when you feel ready, you can just go ahead and blink your eyes open. Welcome back.
So good. So good. It is really for me to notice how much control you can have over your state of being just through your breath.
Wild.
And when you feel so, I know when everything is going on and you have so many things on your plate and you're trying to manage all the things and juggle everything, and just having that ability to bring yourself to a place that you can feel so in control and calm is what I really feel could be such a tool for so many people to be able to have that feeling.
Pretty sure that if everyone in the world practiced breath work, we would actually have peace.
Yes. So before we wrap it up, I would love for you to share like some of the things that you have going on, some things that you actually do and participate in because it is so much more than just a couple of deep breaths. So
Yeah.
just wrap it up with that. That would be great.
So I am no longer teaching on like a regular cadence schedule anywhere. I do a lot of activations and events. So I will keep you posted as to when I'm doing those. But I have a breathwork membership. It's called Cultivate, and I'm actually in the works building my own app currently to move it into a space that makes it a little bit more accessible. But that membership is a portal of audios that you can tap into because it's nice to have someone guide you. And also, we meet monthly because I really firmly believe in the idea of human connection. So, obviously, in person is the gold standard. But in the spirit of being able to reach and support people in multiple different locations, we do that breathwork experience virtually, and it's accessible monthly. It's $44 a month, so you get a whole audio library that I'm constantly updating, and then a live experience. All
Okay.
and there's basically it's almost like small group coaching because it's not just a breath work. We have some conversation at the top and then conversation integration on the other side. And people inside there have been in the group for a really long time. So there are people who have forged relationships. There's a real strong sense of community.
Yes, yes, and I
Yeah.
was doing that for a long period of time, and it was literally when I tell you the things that I would tell Corey that I wanted and that I was wishing for and that were on my vision board and all the things that I had hoped for, they are literally coming to fruition now, and it was the reason I reached out to her recently because I had gone through all of my notes that we had done through our group calls, and it was virtual. All of my notes, I started calling her, I go, "You are not gonna believe this, but remember we were talking about this 2 years ago?" Like, it's actually happening. So this is how we reconnected. So anyone that is thinking about it,
Yeah.
that even wants to give it a shot, it is well worth.
$44, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yep.
They would be crazy not to do it
Yep.
if they would realize that once they actually do it and understand it. And even I remember, when we were doing it, you would ask me a series of questions before we started, so you kinda knew the direction that I wanted to head, and so when we were in it, in the session, you would incorporate that in, with the
Yeah.
timing, and so guide me through that visualization, which
Yeah,
made it so it
absolutely.
wasn't just up to me to kinda think of these things, you would place them in at the time, which just made it just laid it out so perfectly and just made it easy to do, but wasn't putting the energy into trying to think what was it that I was trying to do. You're putting it in, just made it such a smooth transition. So they just
Yes,
got a
that
little piece of it, but this is goes much
And that
deeper.
little piece was like a
Yeah.
literally like a crumb of what she does because it's not even just the combination of her amazing voice, but it was music with it and just the information, like Calvin said, of it was pairing everything together and just making it an experience that really moves the needle and helps you to gain that control and feel a little bit more empowered in what you are doing in life and not just being like a passenger.
There's people in the group classes, I mean, they were in tears, because it just brought them to a place that they needed to go to, and, it was pretty impactful, when you see it, especially in a group setting.
oh my gosh, that's right. We did it in your group. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
We've known
Yeah.
each other for so long that I'm not forgetting things.
Well, I think and I need to bring this back in for my competitors. They could all use this right now,
Oh my gosh, yeah,
anytime,
that would be
really.
so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And we will be having all of her information. If you guys are interested in this program, it will be in the show notes for you. So thank you again so much for joining us. This has been just such an incredible experience. And I know people are going to walk away with so much value. So thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us here.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. It was such a delight. I appreciate you.
And if you guys wouldn't mind dropping a review, we would really appreciate it and subscribe. And we will catch you on the next episode. Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Master Your Metabolism. If you found value in today's episode, it would mean the world to us if you'd hit subscribe and share this episode with someone who could use a little guidance in their health journey. Ready to take the next step? Head over to www.mastersfitnesscoaching.com and you can book a free call right from the site so we can chat about your goals and how we can help support you. Don't forget to join our Facebook group where we're sharing coaching tips, support, and tricks to help keep you on track and continue making progress. You don't have to do this alone. We're here to walk with you every step of the way. Until next time, stay consistent, stay kind to yourself, and keep mastering your metabolism. Let's do this together.